Hey guys, gals, and MPs. So I'm here today with a few new interesting topics that I want to cover. So the first one is I stopped at Guitar Center yesterday on the way home, and they had a Polybrute 6 in stock as a used item, but it was out for display and use, and it was hooked up to some monitors. And actually, I've found out I don't really like it all that much at all. The sound is the ladder filter in general is not my thing. I just, as much as I like the Trigon 6 when I had a Trigon 6, the ladder filter was the point of contention. If that thing had a SEM filter and it was a 3-voice poly with a SEM filter, that would be the most amazing analog synth ever made right there, just purely build quality and everything. But they chose the ladder filter because they wanted to have something to fill the gap of a ladder filter, and they already have the OB6. So, but yeah, I did not like the ladder filter on the Polybrute 6, nor did I like the Steiner filter either. They were not that great for my opinion. I will say though that the ladder filter was compensated, which was kind of cool, so it didn't lose too much volume or anything. But yeah, just not my thing. That means the Polybrute 12 is off the table because they share almost, I think they are identical in terms of the voice architecture. So, yeah. So I decided I am just going to stick with the Summit as my flagship polysynth that I absolutely love and adore. I don't think I've found another synth that I personally like more. I mean, there's synths out there that people say the Udo might be the only one, but until I can use one in a shop, I don't want to just buy one and then potentially not be able to return it if it isn't something that I want. So I'm not even going to bother with that. The third wave, totally off of that game because I think the Summit, at least for me, is a better synth, just in general. So yeah, so that leads me to I am going to keep the TEO-5 and the Take-5. But here's one thing I want to bring up. I think I found a bug. Well, I did find a bug, and Sequential was able to respond to me and state yes, they are aware of this. So if you have a TEO-5, if you want to go ahead and see if you're affected by this, and if you are, please email Sequential at support@sequential.com. The person I was talking to over there would love the data, especially your serial number. So make sure you respond with your serial number and state that you are having an issue with the LFO. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. So the issue with the LFO, let's go into Poly. I'm sorry that it's a little on the blurry side here. This is about as good as I could get it with the lighting and everything zoomed in. But choose any of the LFOs, doesn't matter, and choose a value. So let's just choose like 54, for instance. I'm going to go ahead. And every once in a while, it'll start to drift. Of course, it's not going to do it now that I'm showing you guys that there it is. There it jumped. See how that just jumped? I wasn't touching it. Yeah. So both LFOs do that. I don't think it's a hardware issue. They don't seem to have told me that it is a hardware issue. They seem to be trying to track it down to fix it in software. My Take-5 doesn't do this. The previous TEO-5 I had with the wonky knobs had this exact issue, and I believe I don't remember what model, serial number I had, but my early serial number, it was in the 300 or 400s, had this same issue too, where it would just jump values on the LFO for the amount. So I think it's a software thing. They're probably not properly debouncing it, so be aware of that. And you might ask yourself, why is this an issue? Let's say that I made a new patch or whatever, and the mono LFO was set. Let's just go in here. For instance, let's get it to drift. So if I went to a new patch, made a new patch, that might potentially kick in and think that I moved the amount knob when I didn't, and you just out of the blue, you'll start getting a bunch because by default, oscillator all frequency is routed to LFO 1 in a default patch. So what'll happen is you'll get a bunch of drift on that, or modulation that you didn't want, and you don't know where it's coming from. That's the thing. It came from the amount moving by itself. So like that, for instance, if you're in a new patch, let's just try that. Let's just see if it'll do it. There you go. See what I mean? I luckily caught that. So both LFOs do that. Go ahead, test this out, see if it does it. Make sure it's not a maximum or minimum value. Make sure it's in between 0 and 127. I think 127 is the light. Yeah. So 0 and 127. I don't know if it does it in the negative realm. I mean, I guess we could try, right? Let's just go down. Let's go negative. Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's jump in the negatives as well. So that is definitely a bug. I very much doubt that it's bad potentiometers. I mean, it could be. They could have gotten a whole bunch of bad potentiometers, but that would affect a lot of units. And my Take 5 was made around the same time, I'm assuming, because it's a new batch of them. And they use the same potentiometers, I think, for the amount. So that doesn't have the issue. I think it is a firmware bug. So yeah, something to be aware of. Please send the serial number and that you're having this issue to sequential support. Like I said, I think it's support at, let me double check. I have the email open. Yeah, support@sequential.com. So, yeah, double checking. Have to double check. Anyway, so the thing is the reason I'm really staying with sequential synths, even though this bug exists, they were very quick to respond to me on it. They've always been very quick and very good about responding to issues and like walking you through like troubleshooting and things like that. Plenty of other synth manufacturers I've dealt with. I'm not going to name some of them. For sure, like I've asked questions to Roland before and they never even bothered to email me back. So maybe that was, blacklisted from making fun of some of the Boss products. I was actually just making a joke about that earlier with my significant other, but that I made a meme happen with a mute pedal for the Boss side, and then it kind of blew up. So that was interesting. So maybe they just blocked me over that. That'd be hilarious. But that said, Sequential and Ovation both have been super responsive, and it's like I kind of want to keep staying with them. And it's just a sound. The SEM sound, as much as I would like an OBX8 or something along those lines, there's no mod matrix on that. That is an old school synth, and that is an issue for me. I love the mod matrix. It's super useful to me. It's super useful to my music design. That has a SEM filter. It's, there's not many synths on the market I like the sound of that have a SEM filter. The only other SEM-based synth with a SEM filter, hardware SEM filter that I like is probably the Mini Freak. Though the last two Mini Freaks that I've used one in the store and I've gotten one in person, the last batch of those have been absolutely abhorrently badly made. I had some buttons that just didn't work, and even the demo model at my local Guitar Center was kind of wonky and broken in the same exact way, which makes you think, maybe I'll try one again. I mean, because I like it so much, but maybe it was just a bad batch. So I'll give that one a try, because I love the sound of the Mini Freak, because the oscillators, even though they're digital, they're super versatile, but that filter on top of those digital oscillators is cool. So yeah, I am sticking with the TEO-5. Hopefully we can get an answer on the LFOs, and let me check something really quick while I do that. I was going to say, I was looking online, some people the only other thing I don't like about the Take-5 and the TEO-5 personally are that the knobs are too damn stiff, but they do loosen up quite easily over time if you use them a lot. My Frequency 2 one, which I've used a lot, this one also kind of drifts every once in a while, as does Frequency 1, so I think they're just not debouncing correctly. So hopefully that can be fixed in firmware. But my Frequency 2, which I use a lot, has gotten super loose, but not in a bad way. So yeah, these will loosen up, like the resonance control, which I use a lot too. And I was looking to see about the cutoff knob to see if it would loosen up over time, and it does. So mine has already loosened up after just about a month or so of use. So that's great. One of the users that I know watches me on YouTube, but I found one of their comments, I think on a forum somewhere. I think it's like, I like cats and synths. That's the person. Let me see. Sorry to like keep you hanging, but I'm going to find their username because I want to give them a shout out. It's like Love Cats and Synths with a number. I'll put it in the description anyway. Give their channel a watch. They have some cool content on similar things that I post to. So yeah, and their cat is super cute. So go give them some love. But they were saying, I believe it's the same person because their avatar on the form I was looking at was the same cat. So I'm just assuming it was them. And we're talking about the TEO-5, and they were saying how the cutoff knob was very stiff on their unit or something like that. And it was a lot like less stiff on the Take-5. I can shed some light into that. I opened up my TEO-5 just to check some things out. I was trying to see, because I have a few wiggly knobs here, which don't bother me all that much. I was making sure that they weren't wiggling at the PCB and they weren't causing stress to the board, at the solder points. Yeah, and I also wanted to see how easy it was to open this synth for future longevity, and that's another reason I'm keeping this. This is the easiest piece of equipment I've ever owned that's music, I think, to open up and service. So that says a lot. Like, there's no glue. Everything is properly labeled. Even where the contacts go in, like for the ribbon cables, they're labeled contact side down or contact side this way. And that's lovely to see. It's something you definitely won't see on the Polybrute. At least I don't think it. I looked at the Polybrute very, very detailingly before I wanted to say yes or no. I didn't want that. And luckily, the filters totally didn't do it for me. The Steiner filter and the ladder filter were just not my cup of tea. But yeah, so anyway, back to this. So I opened it up. The cutoff knob on this is a standard potentiometer, so that's why it's so tight out of the box. The Take-5, however, has a separate potentiometer that is actually mounted to the chassis that is not PCB mounted, and it is mounted to a bigger knob. So that's why they feel so different. So this will loosen up over time. So if you're having problems and your cutoff knob is just a little too, tight, just give it some time. I use my cutoff knob a lot, so it'll get looser. And like I said, the knobs will get looser and they will feel a lot nicer after time instead of being too tight. I think these knobs are way too tight to turn out of the factory. And that was one of my points of contention to thinking about selling it. But now that they are loosening up, I'm going to keep it, as well as the Take-5. So yeah. The Summit and the Take-5 and TEO-5 are kind of my OG synths, or I don't know how to say that, OP synths at this point. So plus you can make cool sounds like that. That's just something. I mean, I'm sure the Polybrute has FM to some degree, but not like through 0 FM like this thing does. So that's cool. And I will continue to make video on the Korg synth. So I'm actually to the point where I've actually committed on keeping the Korg synths too, all the way to the point where I've taken off the protective covers on the screen. Oh no. And the unfortunate thing to that is immediately when I took them off, I noticed that every single one of them, just like every other Korg synth that I've ever had, this is just an aside, has some kind of scratches on the screen directly off of it. So it's like, maybe I should have kept that on, but I'm keeping them. They don't have high resale value, so I don't really care anyway. But yeah, I'll be making more videos on the Op6 and the multi-poly and the wave state as well, because I love them so much. But God, Korg, fix your build quality issues. This thing is infinitely better built and easy to service, so the screen doesn't just scratch if you look at it wrong either. So that's another thing to say. So yeah, it's kind of like my rambling today and what I'm doing with the synths. Yeah, I really wanted I thought that going to a better flagship synth would make me like to do things more, but I just wanted a different sound. But then I just realized that the SEM filter is the sound I want, and I've not found anything that really duplicates it other than other SEM filters or software SEM filters. I mean, I do like the Profit filter as well. Can't say that. That's why I'm keeping the Take-5. That Profit filter with the compensation on that is really nice. So I wish that was defeatable, but I don't think with the filters that they use on that is not defeatable, unless I'm totally wrong that you can defeat that in the filters on the Take-5. But it would be really nice if you could turn off bass compensation so you could do Profit 5 style patches that rely on that weedy sound when you really push up the resonance. But it is what it is. And this is an excellent synth. TEO-5 is excellent. Summit is excellent. And at least with those three, since they're from basically ran by the same company now since its novation, and their support is excellent. So I think I'm going to have them for a long time and be able to get them serviced and things like that. And like I said, this thing is insanely easy to service. It's like 6 screws on the bottom and I think 5 on the back, and then you can just lift up the unit. I should have taken a video. It was so easy. That was just mind-boggling. And even the ribbon cable is nice and long, so it's easy to work on. It's not something you have to go try to fit your hand underneath it and, you know, try to, or accidentally rip a ribbon cable out. So I do appreciate that. I feel like they've worked on trying to make this serviceable and something you can keep for a long time. All right, I'm going to stop rambling. I just wanted to say my thoughts. Yeah, and thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you like my content, go ahead and subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And I'll see you next time. Bye.